customer service, done right, can be your company's single biggest competitive advantage. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution. Join customer service authority and best-selling author John DeJulius as he interviews leaders who are revolutionizing their industries. This is more than a podcast, though. It's a movement. The Customer Service Revolution is a radical overthrow of conventional business mentality designed to transform what customers and employees experience. If you're a revolutionary customer service leader who's ready to stop competing on price and obsessed with building a brand that people cannot live without, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Customer Service Revolution podcast with John DeJulius. In this episode, John talks with serial entrepreneur Matthew Stewart, who's used unique leadership philosophies to build numerous successful brands from the ground up. What's out of the ordinary is that all of his businesses are dependent on Millennials and Generation Z. Find out how Matthew has helped keep them inspired and motivated. In this episode, you'll also learn Matthew's take on what human service means, the 5 factors of success for college students, how to balance professional and personal life, the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur, leader, father, and husband, and why Matthew feels Millennials and Gen Zs are the best generations to hire. Now here's your host, John DeJulius.
Hello, customer service revolutionaries. This is John DeJulius, Chief Revolution Officer of the DeJulius Group, and I'm so excited about this week's episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast, where we have Mr. Matthew Stewart. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, John, thank you so much for having me. This is like a friendship revolution podcast at the same time. I can't wait. I've been so excited for a couple weeks for this.
Well, right off the get-go, I have a question that just popped in my mind. Matthew Stewart. It's kind of a common name, no?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I have the Google alerts. I'm in the news all the time for murdering people, for kidnapping, for car crashes, been to jail like a million times. Yeah. Common name.
That's what's just hitting on me, because as we start this and I'm looking at you, I'm realizing you're not the Matthew Stewart I wanted to interview, and my assistant somehow got you. But listen, we have the time block, so let's just roll with it. It'll probably never air.
Yeah, well, on the list of your least important friends, I'm sure I'm above at least Michael Cato, but I recognize that I'm not in the top 50 or 60 or 150.
No, untrue. There is only one Matthew Kennedy Stewart, and we do go back at least a couple decades, and I'm so excited to have you on for multiple reasons, Matt. I've got to see you grow, your parent company, National Service Group, which is a parent to several successful brands, which I want you to tell our listeners the backstory, your dedication to customer and employee experience and all that, because I think so many leaders can learn from that. But, then I really want to shift to what's most important. I just like the way you live your life. I like the way you take care of the people in your life. And I think that's really what I want to learn from more. Whenever I am around you or have conversations, I pick up those little things, and I feel like it makes me a little better for the next 24 hours.
Oh, that's nice of you to say. The king of customer service and friendship maintenance says that to me. I feel good today.
Yeah, you're my deodorant. So it's good. All right, Matt. So tell us your backstory. You're from Southern California. What got you to where you are today?
Well, actually, my wife and I are both from Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is what got me to where I am today, because I grew up in Albuquerque and didn't have a whole lot of exposure to things. And I didn't know what a business person was. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I knew what a lawyer was. So I grew up with the goal of being an attorney, and then stumbled across business in college with the brand that I now own, the College Works brand, where I learned to run a business as a college student, managing painters and booking paint jobs. And then from that,
is that what took you west?
I went to college in Santa Barbara. I moved to UC Santa Barbara on the day of my 19th birthday. So my gift to myself was to move by the water. And I checked it out as a freshman. And actually, I saw 2 people making out on the beach. And I told my parents, I got to go to this school. And my mom banned me from going to that school and bribed me to not go to that school. But that's where I went. And it was pivotal because I was exposed to this business that fell apart. And my buddies and I restarted it. And over time, and you talk about taking care of the people you work with. I call it human service. I just came up with that a couple of days ago, thinking about your customer service. And I think of, your employees, your friends, your community, all these different human beings. And so I went to college and stumbled across a friend who took care of me and introduced me to this internship. And in that internship, we practiced human service, and our employees wanted to stay and do business with us. So all of our brands that we now have were started by people that we worked with that didn't want to leave when they either didn't like the model or outgrew the model. And so we expanded into 3 different construction companies across the United States. And I do a bunch of volunteer work on the side, which I really enjoy, part of that human service. Yeah, that's the Cliff Notes. I have a real-time version if you got 20 years.
Yeah. I saw in your bio about the 3rd grade kickball contest. I thought we would leave that out.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So you became an entrepreneur and you still are. What do you spend most of your time now doing when you work? I know you're into a lot of things. You're on a lot of boards, charity, traveling, speaking. But as an entrepreneur leader.
When I work diligently throughout the week, more than the average person, I run our back end office. We have 3 brands. I have 4 partners. 2 of our partners are in our Home Genius brand, which is a really fast growing and very focused on customer service and high ratings home improvement company that does roof shutters, windows, doors, siding, gutters. We have our Empire Community Construction that Jay Reed and Mike Profont run, and that's a commercial, multi-tenant residential. We prevent the towers from falling and fix all the garden apartments. And then I also run our flagship brand, which is really my second favorite company in the world next to American Express. And that is our College Works brand that still teaches college students to run businesses, only in the Midwest now, but we have 400 college students running 400 painting companies with 2 crews, and they get to sell and market and hire and fire and manage and make profit. And then they run off and become Congress people and engineers and maybe come work at the DeJulius Group, probably send a few your way. And we've sent a few to all your trainings too.
Yeah. And that's kind of, you said a couple of things. Something I talked about yesterday, and I think I was in Kentucky, and I speaking to a big restaurant chain, The Melting Pot. And I asked them, how many of you have been in the industry longer than 20 years? Most of the room raised their hand and they're leaders in it. And I said, how many of you started off in this industry 20, 30 years ago thinking it was a temporary transitional job? And everyone raised their hand. And I say, I think that's so key, because you said a lot of your partners and key people, stuck around. And I'm sure when you got into it, you didn't think this was going to be.
That was an internship. It was an internship.
Right.
I was going to be a lawyer. And thank God I didn't become a lawyer, because I'm not detail oriented. I don't spell check. I just don't care. And I didn't understand personality profiles and the DISC test and Strength Finder and all that back then. And we didn't have a whole lot of entrepreneurs in New Mexico. So I was trying out this business thing just to be ready to be a partner in a law firm. And the company went bankrupt, and 2 guys restarted it. And a year later, another 2 guys, including me, came on and changed my whole life.
Yeah. And I think that's important, especially coming off or dealing with the great resignation and quiet quitting, is tell new employees on the interview process, remind customer facing lower level employees, if you want, the rags to riches story, right? That the Matthew Stewart, Jay Reed, who was doing this a couple of decades ago, and look where they are now. Like, I think that's important, that if you work your tail off and help, me grow, you're going to get rewarded. But there's another part to it that I know, you're really big at. You alluded to this, the people that went on to other careers. And I just said this is, the rags to riches stories are great and they need to be told. But at the end of the day, the rags to riches story are how it came back to benefit me, right? If you want to tell a good story, as leaders, I think you got to tell the story of how you helped an employee move on, right? And that, hey, young Matt, 21 Matt, what do you want to be doing 5 years from now? And he tells you, something completely different than what you could provide him in your company. And you're like, all right, I got some connections. Let's make that happen. And a couple of things. One, he's going to be a rock star while he's with you. Number two, he's going to refer and tell everyone you're the greatest person in the world. But let that story go viral. Let that go throughout your company. That's the type of person. And that's what I love that you just said about all the people you've helped as a stepping stone to become successful in complete unrelated careers and industries to what your businesses are.
Yeah, it's interesting to come to terms with the fact that your business is a stepping stone organization. And I remember when I was chairman of the board of EO, we'd have all these debates about, is EO a stepping stone organization? And people were, didn't want that. And I thought, well, my business is a stepping stone organization, totally different situation. But yeah, I don't want all their years. I want some good years. And I'd like them to look back and say, hey, I would have maybe liked to have worked there for my entire career, but this is better for me. So I don't want everybody to work in our business and leave. We want to retain people, but some people want to go elsewhere, right? So we're a stepping stone organization at College Works. The other two brands are not. And I actually spend my summers taking our top employees. We run disc tests on them to help them understand their behavioral patterns, help them if they haven't finished college yet, make sure they're finishing in the right direction. I wanted to be a lawyer. I'm not detail oriented. Thank God I found out when I was in college. My wife didn't. And my wife went into sales, and she's the wrong person for sales 7 years in. She did well. She just hated it. And then she has to reinvent her career. So, I'm doing career counseling. I've got a whole system. You get a disc test. You do this wormholing that I call it, where you're investigating your career.
So that's part of kind of your soft benefits you provide your employees?
Yeah, I have a whole, I have a lot. Here's the way I look at it, John. I've got this one opportunity to shine, and I've got you for a little bit of time. I'm a driver. I've got my bully pulpit. So you know how drivers are. If I think something's awesome, I want you to try it. So it's kind of a laboratory for me. So I have 5 things that I want everyone in college to learn before they get out of college. I go over this stuff with my friends' kids. I go over it with my kids' friends.
What are those 5 things, Matt?
And by the way, never my own kids. My kids don't want to have anything to do with it.
Right.
I want them to go through a disc training to really understand their behavioral patterns and how it affects work. I want them to go through a time management training, which I put on 1,000 times, got it on recordings, got it on got podcasts, YouTube video, do it live. Stress management, especially in this day and age, where the 20-somethings have really been through hell in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the world is, I thought it was bad when we thought just Russia was going to bomb us in the 70s and 80s. There's 20 horrible things going on at any one time. So stress management's really important. Relationship management and time management, stress management, disc, relationship. And then the career finding, which I call it wormholing, where the average college student knows of about 25 or 30 jobs. Half of them are wrong for them. So I want to get in deep, and I want them to leave in the summer, after the summer, with me with 100 jobs that match their career and with an idea of where to go. And I'll tell you, I just do it because I want to do it. I don't have to work anymore. This is what I want to do. This is my sweet spot. And then my kids just went to college. My friends' kids are going to college. So this is like the time I was born for. So I spend my time doing this at College Works. It's kind of my laboratory. And if I get 1,000 people at College Works that love whatever I'm doing, then I bring it to my kids' friends and my friends' kids. And I help them get into college. I've got a system to get into college. I've got a system for high school. And then I'll take all those people and put them through the disc and the time management and the stress management, because I don't know how many speakers I've seen, but I think I saw over 100 in 1 year when I was doing the EO gig.
I'm sure.
And I've sucked up so much knowledge. I don't know how many times I've seen you. I've probably seen you speak 20 times, read your newsletter, watch your videos. So nowadays I've got so much of this knowledge that I've just taken down, and I want to bridge the gap between 20 years old and 40 years old. The wisdom.
Sounds like a book, Matt.
Oh, I've got a book over here, John. It's the world's worst book. I spent $40,000 writing it. You can have it, put your name on it and publish it. That was a stinging experience. I don't know if I'm going to do a book, but I would like to do a website, like a Khan Academy, some free service to help people with the high school, the college.
Well, here's what I love. And I know I think we come from the same place.
Ohio?
No, our perspective on the dreaded Millennials and Zs, right?
I don't dread them. I love them.
No. I'm saying the perspective of, I think they're like you. I think they're the greatest workforce ever. I don't understand why our generation craps on them. Number one, we're the one that raised them, right? So what's that say?
I heard you say that somewhere, maybe on one of your
Yeah.
shows. I heard you say that.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and tell me what I got right and what I got wrong with it, because I know you're a big advocate. So I just wrote a blog, I don't know if you saw it a couple of weeks ago, that it was on, how Millennials and Zs cancel the word culture, right? And so I remember when that came out, and I remember when quiet quitting and the great resignation. And as an entrepreneur, I was annoyed. I had a chip on my shoulder. What the hell? And hustle culture is everything I know you and me have done to get where we are. It's everything I've told my 3 boys, and I believe in it. And so I was like, what? And I said, hold on. All right, and so I start doing research, and I start coming to it. I start, seeing a completely different side, right? That they had a front row seat for their parents and their grandparents. And for a lot of them, it didn't pay off. They worked their asses off, their parents, grandparents got laid off, or had to work till way past retirement and to the day they died. And then for the ones that it did pay off financially, their parents and grandparents, there's collateral damage, right? The more successful people are, the worse their relationships are at home. And, they don't want to live like it. And so when I really went back, I'm like, who's to say Matt and John's philosophy growing up is right and they're wrong? I mean, I kind of have, respect for them giving us the middle finger in a way about, you take your hustle culture and shove it. What do I have right? What do I have wrong?
Well, I think about this all the time because I have a son who, and I don't know if you remember it, when he was young, it was difficult. He had asthma, and the way we treated it, he was like out there getting attention the wrong way. And then by the time he got out of high school, he's like an absolute angel. And I get calls from people. Oh, you're Jake's dad. Oh, I love Jake. He made us food. And I hear all this wonderful thing. I got one issue with him. And it's work ethic. And the kid has figured out every way to short the system, get around the system. And I'm sitting there pulling my hair out because in my mind, if you don't work hard, and I do believe this, he hasn't proven me wrong yet, but there's always someone that's smarter than you. There's always someone that's better than you. If you can make sure there's no one that works harder than you, you'll smoke them every time. I think that 90% of people in the world just don't do all they can to get it done, whatever it is. And, when it was the EO chairmanship, people would say, hey, how come you were the chairman of EO? I said, I'm the only one that got things done. I'm just amazed by people running billion-dollar businesses and they never get anything done. They have to be managed. And I'm watching my son, and he needed to go get a job to buy a car. Instead, he bought a bot and got Supreme clothing and sold them at school. And I told him I was going to double his money because he had no money. And I want to throw him a bone, help him out with his car. He made $4,000 in 2 months on selling Supreme stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to pay you, Jake. I want you to get a job. There's a reason I want you to get a job. I want the work ethic. I want the discipline. I want the communication skills, blah, 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 blah. All the old man stuff.
Right.
And he said, I got to do his voice. You used to be the chairman of all the entrepreneurs. And you think of yourself as a big entrepreneur. And you're not going to pay your son who just did something entrepreneurial. And at that moment, I thought, damn it, he got me again. It's like
He's
going
right.
up.
I'm totally right.
It's like going up against a Harvard-trained rug salesman in negotiation. Like every time he smokes me, but I keep watching this kid. He's always on the stage at concerts, and he's always getting money somehow, and legally through these different ways. And he's had plenty of wonderful jobs, but he's always got an angle. And I just question myself. Maybe my way is not the way.
Right.
Maybe there's more, and maybe his isn't either, but maybe there's a lot of ways to do it. And it's going to be a hard, I might go to my grave before I give up on this work ethic thing. Because why not, right? Why not? However talented you are.
One of the silver linings of the pandemic was that it reminded leaders that, the currency for this young generation is purpose, and they are not willing to trade hours for dollars. They got to have some meaning and purpose before they're willing to, ante up, which I like. I like that. I think they've had a professional awakening, which is, transferred to us understanding what they want, and not just, I'll give you $5 more a week or whatever the hell it is.
And to your point on how they're raised, I can't tell you how many parents have told me my son or daughter can't have a job there in sports. Really? Are they going to be a professional baseball player? Really? Are they going to be a professional soccer player? Will they even get a scholarship in college? Will they even get into college for that? You need a backup plan. And I've got a friend who was on my podcast recently that's one of the biggest agents in sports. And there's a town that our friend Mike Cato lives in. I call it a little league town. Everybody's playing
Cato
little league.
and Billy just said hi. They just texted me. I don't know who Billy is.
Oh, okay. That's nice. I do. So they all want to play baseball. My friend said once every 5 years, someone goes to pro baseball from this town that Cato lives in. Have a backup plan. And I got another 5 for you from CollegeWorks. We measure everything, what creates success. We've had 40,000 alumni in our program. If you've had a job that you worked 30 hours a week or more, if you've worked 3 years or more, if you got above a 3.0, not a 3.5, not a 3.9.
We're talking about college kids?
We interview thousands of college students every year. We put them through this program, which is kind of a metaphor for life. You know, you're
yeah. No, I just want to make sure people understand the reference point. You're talking about this. Okay.
College students, when you're in college, when we ask you these 25 questions, we found 5 questions that determine success. If you can say yes to 5 of these questions, you're 256% more successful than yes to 3. If you can't say yes to any, we have never measured a dollar of revenue from you, and yes to 1 is negligible. So it's amazing. So 3.0, you just got to have pretty good grades. Work 3 years a week. 3 years or more is important because your first job's usually, a screw up job. 30 hours a week's important too. My son had to work 2 jobs before he got over 24 hours a week. Did you play varsity sports? And it doesn't matter if you live in California or you live in Wyoming. If you go to a school with 10,000 people or a school with 300 people, you still have to be driven and focused to get to varsity. And then did you pick an easy major or a hard major? Those 5 questions, if you can get your kids to say yes to those 5 questions by the time they're a freshman in college, my experience is they're 256% more successful than yes to 3. So my kids have been on that program. My friends' kids have been on that program. And then
what do you call that? The title of that? Those 5 questions?
Those are just the 5 factors of success.
Love that.
And then you give them a time management training, which I have a YouTube video. You can find time management anywhere, stress management training, give them a DISC test to help them pick their major, and boom, they're off and running. And I'm watching my son, who's got now a great resume, and he's, a junior at Tulane University. And I'm just watching him kind of turn the corner and get ready to take off. And I'm looking back thinking, and he didn't want to work. He didn't want to pay for his own car. He didn't want to have to play. He hated volleyball. I'm like, you got to go another year. You need to get that letter. And I think it really changed who he was for the better.
That's awesome. Is one of the questions, maybe I missed it, is that I just Venmo. I ask my dad every couple minutes to Venmo me money.
Well, see, that's the problem. You get these, and that's where I started with.
No, I know, but that's me. I'm the enabler.
Well, then you need to go read Richard and Linda Ayer's book on the family economy.
I love them.
I love them too. Yeah. But to your point on the parents raising them, if you give your kids excuses, you're not preparing them for the future. 100%. The kid wants to have a job and you're saying, no, you've got to study. You've got to push the kids and get them to have a backup plan and do more. And I'm giving advice. I shouldn't be doing that. No,
I love this. And this is kind of where I wanted to go, because there's so many things you could bring. But I like, how you work.
Are you still guessing at ways to improve your customer satisfaction scores? Or how to hire and keep the best talent? Stop guessing and become knowledgeable. Join the Customer Experience Executive Academy and learn what the world-class companies already know. At the Customer Experience Executive Academy, you'll learn the methodology applied by world-class companies to create consistent, memorable moments that lead to happy customers and happy employees. Visit cxea.org or contact Claudia at thedejuliusgroup.com for more information on how to enroll.
I know life balance is important to you. As an entrepreneur, as someone who is personality driven and has an addiction to being busy, right? I just know you, and you won't say no. You'll find one more board to serve on besides your companies, besides charity, all those things. But I know Jill and your 2 children are so important to you. And maybe it's different today than it was 20 years ago, but how did you make sure you were taking care of all those things? How did you make sure you weren't just a starter husband for Jill, because none of us expected that to last.
Yeah. I think about that a lot because my daughter at one point in time got upset at me for doing too much for others. And I kind of went too far. My daughter told me that I could not be on the school board of the next school she went to. And I help again, my friends' kids and my kids' friends get into college. I have a whole system for that. And so I had these 7 girls in the room, and it's coming down to October 31st. We're getting our early action applications in, and my daughter's crying because she's got to go do her essay the 7th time over. And her friend walks in and she says, "You are not getting in front of me. He's going to take care of me first." And then she looks at me, and this is funny. "If you help Frankie, I'm going to go to the kitchen, grab a fork, and stab you in the neck with a fork." And we're all laughing because it was kind of humorous. So I think at certain times in my life, I kind of went too far to the community side, and left the family side. But I mean, you know how it goes, John. You, me, a lot of your listeners, most of our friends, we're constantly, making a year goal plan. We got the Me tool. We're working on balance. I color code my calendar. I got a color for the organizations, a color for the family, a color for work, and I'm just trying to make sure it's all balanced. And there's times I find like I'm supposed to go have lunch with Jamie Dimon in New York next week with a bunch of people from my YPO chapter, and I'm not going. And I'd love to go to New York per se, all the greatest restaurants, Bernardin. My friend Joe John is planning the whole trip, and I'm not going. And I know my daughter's not going to be here. She's a senior in high school. I'll see her for 5 minutes, but I'm staying here. And so the learning to say no was important to me. I really enjoy the community involvement. I really, like I said, this is my sweet spot. I've got all these friends that have done so much for me, and I can pay them back by helping out their kids. But I do have to check myself once in a while and make sure that, am I home for the dinners? Am I home for Jill? Luckily, I crashed my mountain bike and broke my back. So mountain bike is an 18-hour-a-week sport for me. All of a sudden, I got 18 hours a week to hang out. Plus, I spend 12 hours a week going over to Cato's house and having a couple drinks. Can't drink anymore because of my horrible doctor. So now I got 30 hours a week.
You're blaming your doctor on your drinking.
Dude, all I do is work, take care of people, ski, mountain bike, drink, and watch TV. That's all I do. And sometimes I listen to podcasts. So he took away skiing, mountain biking, and drinking, tried to blame it on me. Yeah, I'm kind of pissed at him.
I think you could sue him for that.
I'm looking for a doctor that's going to tell me what I want to hear. But I had to reinvent my routine.
Yeah.
And now I'm playing backgammon with Jill. I'm going on walk. It's hard for me to walk because I just destroyed my whole body. Don't crash a mountain bike at 24 miles an hour in a rock garden. I learned that the hard way. Yeah. But I sat there and I was getting into that mindset of, oh, woe is me. What am I going to do? I'm going to get fat. And I sat at my calendar for the last hour of my workday and plugged in a new routine, go to the gym and ride the stationary bike because that's all I can do, backgammon with Jill, master classes, learn the harmonica, which my daughter doesn't want me to do, and had to reinvent my routine. And I'm just constantly doing that. It doesn't have to be an accident. It's constantly looking at how am I balanced? How does my last month look? How does my next month look? How are the trips? Am I doing enough for my own family? Because I err on the side of, going out into the community maybe a little too much. And that's been working for me. And I listen to my daughter when she tells me that I'm not doing it right.
When she tells you she's going to stab you in the throat with a...
I feel bad about saying that to an audience that might be made up of a lot of people from Ohio. In California, kids threatening to stab you in the throat is normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Hardest thing in your career about being an entrepreneur, that if you're an entrepreneur, maybe they're a young entrepreneur out there, tell a younger self.
Well, the hardest thing for me for being an entrepreneur is raising money, and that's pretty essential, but that's probably not a good answer. God, the hardest thing about, honestly, man, I just don't think it. I when I compare it to the alternative,
yeah,
I just don't see it as hard. I mean, I see it as freedom. I see it as leverage. I love the leverage concept.
Well, what I would say, and I've been trying to turn this back on me is,
I didn't know you were interviewing yourself today.
Right. And I think we're good at it, but not a lot of people are. The entrepreneur needs to be the least valuable short-term asset a company has, right? Like if you get hit and knocked out on your butt for 5 weeks, your business didn't feel it. Now, 5 months it would, but not, you can't be licking the stamps and stuff in the envelopes. You gotta let that go. So I guess
then I'll give you mine.
Okay.
And it's that going from a million, the $1 million to $4 million range and getting over that, the old get out of the way.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from DISC when I realized I'm a driver and I'm going to push and you got to do it fast and do it my way. And I did the DISC test and I realized, oh, these people are just different. And I come in, I don't know which speaker it was, but, come in and ask the question the right way instead of telling what you think the answer is, and learning to slow down and suck the information out of the team instead of planting seeds that biases the information or the ideas they have. I think that was the hardest thing and probably the most important thing for me to learn. I was a shitty leader. Everybody at my office hated me, and my 3 partners fired me from running the back end office 15 years ago. And it was because I didn't listen. I pushed my ideas, and I was moving too fast and not paying attention to other people's styles. And it was a bitter pill to swallow. And, fast forward, now I think I'm pretty good at it because I listen, I ask questions, I slow down. That was probably the hardest thing for me to learn.
Well, good. And that was going to be my next question, but you kind of covered it because it was the hardest thing as an entrepreneur and then hardest thing as a leader, which, is a different hat, but you just kind of address both, which great answer. All right. How about this? Hardest thing as a father? And you might have hit on that earlier.
Yeah. So we found out my dad has Alzheimer's in November. I've been thinking about it a lot.
Sorry.
And I find that, thank you. I find that after my tour of the world, a lot of people are running away from something. They were abused as children. They had their poverty issues or hunger issues. You see a lot of successful people running away from something and fewer running to something. And I'm running to being like my dad and my mom. And I actually we did a test in my Vistage group once where they went around and trying to figure out your baggage from your parents. And the guy's just focusing on me for 20 minutes. There's other people in the room like, why are you talking to me so much? And afterwards he said, I've done this with 500,000 people. Only 5 times, 1 in 100,000 people do I meet someone that has no baggage from his parents. So most people can remember back to that occasion. My occasion was me. I remember me doing it to myself, not my parents affecting me in a negative way. Got no baggage. So hardest thing for me is measuring up against my parents. And I do it all the time. My forum groups are constantly telling me to stop being so hard on myself. Everybody tries their hardest. So that's the absolute hardest thing for me. And then, and you know what? I think living in the now would be the second. You're at Disneyland and your kid's crazy and running around the line and you're freaking out. Just enjoy it. You're on the airplane and they're going crazy. I love to see kids on the airplane going crazy. And I love to be able, and I'm such a weird dude, tell people I was there before. It's okay. They probably think I'm crazy, but living in the now and not letting your ego get in the way. When the kid's screaming at the restaurant, leave the restaurant. It's your ego that's getting in the way. They're screaming on the plane. You're embarrassed. They're not embarrassed. So the hardest thing for me was to let go of my ego and to live in the now. And I go back and I wish I would have never yelled. I wish I would have enjoyed Disneyland more. I wish I would have never taken my kids to Europe when they were little because they hated it and just gone to a park down the street. Live in the now, live through what they want, not what you want, would be what the hardest thing for me.
Yeah. Into that, I more so when they were younger, they're out of the house. I'm an empty nester now, but when they were younger, I would crush it as a father for 23 hours and 55 minutes. But that one time where I snapped, just negated the 23 hours and, might as well bet an asshole for the whole time. Right. Because that's all they're going to remember. That's all so no, I can relate.
And you don't know what an asshole is. And my kids have video. My kids have video of me. I'm moving to Mexico. I'm leaving you guys. You guys don't care. I'm moving to Mexico. Video goes to all their friends. I still see that video.
Wait, who's threatening to move? The kids?
I was going to move to Mexico. These damn kids. They're not doing what I want. They're not cleaning their room. They don't respect me. I'm leaving the family and moving to Mexico. And they're just laughing, videotaping me, sending it to their friends.
Yeah. Hardest thing as a husband. Of how long? 28?
25. Almost 26.
Nice.
Wow. Hardest. So I tell people that if you've been married for 25 years, you've almost been divorced. If you've been married for 25 years, you have been to therapy or you should have gone to therapy. The hardest thing about being, it's always for me the same thing, controlling my perceptions. I'll tell you a quick story. We lost all our money right before the recession. I like to say I started the recession, and I had a lot of money, and all of a sudden my house is for sale and all my cars are sold, and I'm selling my wine and my art, and I'm just in debt and I'm making no money. And life was pretty stressful. And I come home from work one day, and I'm on my, I'm blaming other people, projecting. You do more, Jill. You do more, kids. I'm kind of an angry person. I come home and there's 3 Nordstrom's bags in the hallway, and the hallway's a mess. And I walk in the door and I see the 3 Nordstrom's bags, and now I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And I walk in and I see Jill. I'm like, you don't understand. We're so broke. And I just start going off on her. And she's just sitting there stoic, and she just smiles at me, which she's so good at. She's so good at calming me down. She said, did you look around the house? I said, what? Did you look around the house? You're complaining about how dirty the house is. Did you look around? And I look around and it's not that dirty. She said, yeah, I've cleaned the whole house. The one room I didn't get to was the entry hall that was next. You came home early. And those bags, did you look in those bags? I said, no. She goes, I own 1 bra. We don't have any money. I own 1 bra. Nordstrom's was having a sale. The kids don't have clothes. All of those bags are full with clothes, and I spent $62 on all those clothes. And I thought, wow. So checking myself when I'm in a triggered state, stopping, breathing, looking for the other perception, and just controlling my mindset of something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. I got to fix it, because that's the type of person I am. And looking for what else could be possible. And in conversations, in action, I'm constantly just stopping myself, which in this triggered state, and trying to look for, maybe what Jill's point of view is. And I will say she's the opposite of me. I fly off the handle and get crazy. She just gets mellow. And so together we work out pretty well. And, the opposites make a great marriage. I'm looking forward to 50 more years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are you most proud of, Matt? And there's a lot in that. I mean, how you, top 2, top 3?
Yeah, I think I'm a pretty good dad. I'm pretty excited about some of the community involvement I've had, especially, some of the organizations I've been involved with. That, the school went from being a pretty good school to waitlisted in every grade, recognized as maybe the best in Orange County. I'm really proud. I'm proud of my wife. I think and how she and I've stayed married. And like I said, we've had our issues. We're proud of her and how she's kept us together. And then I got to say, I'm really proud of College Works Painting. And, my partners moved on to other companies and I stayed. And, I just really love that we have, I've done a lot of charity stuff, and I feel like it's always a drop in the bucket, and it just gets frustrating. Like, I didn't solve ALS. My friend died of ALS who started the charity, didn't solve cancer, didn't solve poverty, just kind of a drop in the bucket. But now I have kind of a different attitude. I take a one-on-one approach. So when I work with someone's son or daughter, I work with my kid's friend, or I'm working with one of the college students at College Works, and I see that individual one-on-one impact, which is more time consuming. I'm pretty proud of that. I'm pretty proud. We hired a psychiatrist for College Works on retainer, because kids are dealing with anxiety and some symptoms of depression. So I hired this lady, and I told 20 people. 4 of them took me up on the offer. I didn't even make the offer. I said, we hired this person. I made her available. If people need someone to talk to, we've got 4 out of 20. The first 20 use this person. So I brought her in to do a Zoom. And now I have a company psychiatrist available to help people when they're going through tough times, and then steer them to a solution. So that's what I've been thinking about lately. We just
awesome.
Launched her, and it's amazing the needs. I'm pretty proud. I'm pretty proud to be an entrepreneur that can do whatever he wants. That's why I love entrepreneurship. You take your values, you take your focus, and you get a whole team of people that have their values and focuses, and you combine them together, and everything's leveraged, and you can get all this stuff done. Everyone in my company wants to help college students find their dreams and do the best they can. And this costs us a lot of money. We have to pay her $300 an hour every time she talks to one of these people. So everybody's paid on profit. So I didn't even ask. I said, hey, I hired this company psychiatrist. Oh, that's great. Let's use her. Everybody's all in. Nobody asks how much it costs. Just let's do it. So I'm pretty proud of the company.
That's awesome. My definition is, of great leadership is great leaders help people live amazing lives. And that's what you're doing, Matt. I mean, that you inspire me. Something you didn't hit on that I know is the reputation you have for everyone that you come in contact with. you've built up so much social capital that I know you can call anyone, or I can call you and say, hey, I need something in, Guam, and you'll know someone that feels like they owe you. I just love that. And,
that's a wonderful world where I think I owe everybody something and they think they owe me something. And we're constantly doing favors. I call it the favor economy. I'm just part of the favor economy. I'm a favor broker. And I love that. I love that aspect of life. And thank you for the compliment. I feel the same about you.
I love that. I don't know. You crushed it. Anything else you want to share with our audience before I let you go and try to find the original Matt Stewart I wanted to interview?
Yeah. Now I'm wearing my Secret Service hat that I
love that.
That I used to use.
My audience probably doesn't know what Secret Service is anymore because I think I told you the Secret Service called us about 7 years ago with a cease and desist.
Oh, I didn't know that. Secret Service.
I was actually proud that we were on their radar.
So Secret Service was John's first book, and the concept of just this great customer service. If you haven't been to the conference in Cleveland, the multi-day, it's like you move to a different universe. So I read the book. John came out and spoke to my company a few times. I've seen him a bunch of other times. And somehow I got this hat that says Secret Service on it, meaning the book, but it looks exactly like a Secret Service hat. So in my younger years, when I used to be a little less obedient of the law, when I always had really, really fast cars, I'd have to go to these universities all the time. And so I'm driving a M5 at the time, all decked out. And I pull into the university and I'm not going to park wherever they want me to park. So I would park in the police parking lot every time I went to the university, and I would just leave my Secret Service hat on the dashboard. And I never got a ticket. Never got a ticket.
Yeah, you drove me one time when you brought me in to speak to YPO or other things, and it was the worst experience of my life. I swore I would never get in a car with you again.
Well, you will.
Matt, you are the best.
I want to answer your question, though. I was thinking about it today because I think about Secret Service all the time. I think about, yes, now what's the question all the time. There's some little reminders that pop up in my calendar to remind me of some of the things you said. And I was thinking about that the concept of human service. And you kind of brought it up today. How do you provide human service to your friends? The same way you provide customer service. You get organized. You put stuff in your calendar. You put the birthdays. If somebody has something go wrong, you know this. I actually put it in my calendar to remind me to check in on them. And I just keep doing that. So organized. It's got to be just in time. And most importantly, sincere. If you really don't care, don't even try. But that concept of human service applies to your family, applies to your community, applies to your business. And, I've learned most of this from you, just that attitude that we're here to do the best we can. And how are we going to lift all those people around us, whether it's the customers that you always talk about, or the employees that you always talk about, or just the person next door.
I love it, Matt. And you truly walk the talk. And over the years, anytime I've had any speed bumps in my life, you're the first person that reaches out to me. And it's always stood out. And I appreciate it. You have inspired me in so many ways. And listen, so you've referred me to so many people, businesses, chapters. But that's not why I love you. I love you for everything we've just heard, the person you are, and just I always get a bounce in my step, and it makes me want to be a better category in all those things. So I can't thank you enough, Matt.
Well, isn't it nice that the feeling is mutual? Thank you very much for having me on this wonderful show, John.
Thank you, Revolutionaries, for another episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. We will see you next week.
Thanks for listening in to this episode of the Customer Service Revolution podcast. I'm Denise Thompson, managing partner of the DeJulius Group, and I invite you to send us your questions, post a review, and let us know what you liked and want to hear more of. We're happy that you're part of the Customer Service Revolution and encourage you to subscribe now so you don't miss an episode. You'll find us on Spotify, iTunes, or your favorite podcast station.